Hi kids, welcome to Meditation 1 of the Dudeist and Taoist Te Ching. What is the Dudeist Te Ching, you may be asking? Well, Dudeism is a modern day sect of the old Taoist religion, started by a fellow named Laozi, but I'll get to that in a moment. This behind me is the old Spanish Trail Park, and the dirt paths you see on either side of the sidewalk, those are formed by the ruts made from wagons as the Mormon settlers left the Las Vegas Valley and headed west towards California, trying to find that route following old Spanish migrants before them. I like this park because they headed west, just like Laozi. So, a preface to all of this by the Doodly Lama Oliver Benjamin. After the Christian Bible, the Tao Te Ching is the most widely translated book in the world. There are no fewer than 100 translations in English alone. Incidentally, this is an annotated version of the notes made by both Benjamin and Dwight, who we'll talk about later. While there are many books which have given rise to religions, few movies have managed to pull off such a feat. The Coen brothers' 1998 film, The Big Lebowski, is one of those, having inspired Dudeism, a religion with ordained Dudeist priests all over the world. And Brother Neil is one of those priests. I was ordained in 2014, September 14th to be exact. Since Dudeism is also basically a modernized form of Taoism, as I've said, it is equally inspired by the Tao Te Ching. In order to illustrate the far-out connection between the Big Lebowski and Taoism, we've produced this unique reinterpretation of the Tao Te Ching. To help illustrate the correspondence, we've provided our own original translation of the Tao Te Ching after each meditation, which I will present in each video. Each of the verses is also followed by a fresh and investigative essay into the original meaning of the Taoist verse, along with far-out elements from the Big Lebowski that coincide with and illustrate that interpretation, along with some thoughts from Brother Neil. Occasionally I'll also refer to my electron theory, which fits into both Taoism and, of course, Dudeism. There's a link to a video of my ideas in the More section, along with a link to the Tao of Physics, which is, I learned after I formed this idea, very similar to my idea. So that was from Reverend Benjamin. Here's an introduction by the Archdudeship, Dwight. Legend has it that a Chinaman by the name of Laozi, which, as I said, literally translates into the old boy, one day said, "Fuck it," loosely translated from the Chinese, of course, hopped on a water buffalo, possibly with rust coloration, and started heading away out west to Tibet. On his way out, someone stopped Laozi and asked if he would write down the tenets of his ethos before leaving town. Being a lazy man, Laozi lodged his water buffalo against an abutment long enough to write the Tao Te Ching's 81 short meditations. When finished, he kicked his water buffalo into gear and, tossing his ringer to the man, rode off into the misty horizon of legend and myth. Regardless of whether the legend is true or whether Laozi even really existed, the Chinaman is not the issue here, dudes. The issue is that the Tao Te Ching is the perfect expression of Taoism's wu-wei of life, or in the parlance of Houston Smith, a life of creative quietude in which the conscious mind must relax, stop standing in its own light, let go, so that it can flow with the Tao, or way of the universe. Laozi rejected uptight Chinese imperial society and rode off to the mountains of Tibet, while the dude rejected uptight American imperial society and became a roadie with Metallica. I think the best way to read these here verses in the vernacular of the stranger is to slow down, kick back, and deliberately savor these stanzas as casually as possible. This ain't no spiritual In-N-Out burger, dudes. The Dudeist Ching is just right for pondering as you soak in a tub surrounded by lit candles or playing frequency modulation videos, maybe some subliminal message meditations. Or when you lie on the rug that really ties your room together, digging some Jackson Browne tunes. Jackson is my man. You may wonder what in God's holy name I'm blathering about. It don't matter to the dudeist. We can't be worried about that shit. Life is complicated and all too short, and we're not interested in wasting it on dead doctrinal debates or stale ideological disputes. Aw, hell, I done introduced this book enough. Let's go bowling, dudes. Throw some strikes. Oh, one other note. Dudeism doesn't recognize dude as a gender-specific word. We consider both women and men who exhibit dude-like qualities to be dudes, and assert that the word dude can mean many different things depending on the context. All of that out of the way, let's get to the 1919 interpretation by Dwight Goddard as written in the poetic language of a fellow named, I'll find it, trust me, Peter something. Sam Torode. So it's not Peter at all. Peter is a rabbit running around the park somewhere. What is the Tao? That is the title of today's meditation. The Tao that can be understood is not the eternal cosmic Tao, just as an idea that can be expressed in words is not the infinite idea. And yet this ineffable Tao is the source of all spirit and matter, expressing itself. It is the mother of all created things. Being the mother, it is a feminine religion. Not to desire material things is to know the freedom of spirituality, and to desire them is to suffer the limitations of matter. Yet these two things, matter and spirit, so different in nature, have the same origin. This unity is the mystery of mysteries and the gateway to spirituality. I did this chapter once before at a different park, but it was dark and I didn't really like the production value. So this is an update. Dwayne Yutzi put the interpretation of Meditation 1 this way. The Tao that can be discussed is not really the Tao. Things in the world are only temporary reflections of Tao. The flow of Tao is all that really exists. Our language and beliefs and categories are only fabrications, which help us make sense of its flow. In order to understand this, one has to first learn how to relax. In order to experience this, one has to first learn how to unlearn. The world is made of and by Tao, and Tao is evidenced by the workings of the world. Right over here we have the Las Vegas Wash. Tao and the world may seem separate, but that is only because we are hardwired to see it that way, to operate in greater harmony with the world. We must begin to internalize this way and its perspective. I point out the wash because I think water represents the flow of the Tao, as our electron is able to do that. I think air may also be that flow of Zen. Zen being time, but this is all explained in the video. The Dudeist version of this goes, dudeness that can be blathered about is very undude. Names we self-apply to things are only handles for what abides. A tumbling of tumbleweeds is all that's really out there. The rug is a fabrication which ties our ruminations together. Our thinking about this must not be uptight, or we will enter a world of pain. Investigating complicated cases allows us to better understand the world. The world is stupefying, but it's far fucking out. Am I wrong? Okay then. The dude digs the style of the stranger, and the stranger the style of the dude. They differ only in their beverages. I prefer red wine, 1 glass a day, but often water as well. Sometimes I mix the water with vodka. If I do, then I don't have a glass of red wine. But there's always a beverage here. The Tao helps make sense of the whole darn human comedy. It is a theory of everything. TOE. I can get you a toe. There are ways, dude. If you see the movie, you'll understand that. Of all the religious and philosophical books ever written, the Tao Te Ching may be the most humble. We are now into the notes of this chapter, and let me say that I won't always interject some thoughts during the actual verses of the Tao Te Ching. I thought it important to do so in this video, though. That's because right at the outset, the Tao Te Ching states, what we're going to discuss cannot really be adequately talked about because words can't really describe it. As a result, there's quite a bit of irony and even comedy in the Tao Te Ching, certainly more than you'd find in most other major religious screeds, especially if you add the Dudeist Te Ching to it. With all the smug moralizing and even godlike characters and perspectives populating movies nowadays, it's disarmingly refreshing to realize that this movie is going to be a bit humble in its approach to telling it like it is. This limber-minded difference helps explain the enduring popularity of the Tao Te Ching as well. To help make sense of something that can't really be talked about, we are provided with a sort of placeholder word, Tao. Tao is established at the outset of the book as a mystical concept, normally translated as path or way. Yet it's also the process of treading that path and the manner in which it is tread. So it is neither really a noun nor a verb nor an adverb, nor any one thing in particular. In fact, it may be more like the ruts left by wagon tracks. And incidentally, Te in Tao Te Ching refers to virtue. By giving the name Tao to something so vague and yet all-encompassing and all-purpose, Laozi seems to have intended Taoism to represent a sort of theory of everything, or Tao, This term already exists in physics, of course. The goal of unifying the different theories of physics into one cohesive whole, a feat yet unaccomplished. Similarly, all religions are attempts at fashioning their own Tao. We like to use Tao as an acronym for this, given the mystery of the Tao that is so central to the movie mystery. Even if they often end up being stubbed increasingly against science and other inconveniences of the modern world. This in mind, we like to think of Dudeism as an attempt to produce a Tao that doesn't conflict with reason, yet still preserves the more practical and philosophical aspects of these old theories, which people find comforting and inspiring. Brother Neil hopes that that's the effect anyway. So this has already gotten long enough, and most will not be this long. Thank you for joining me on it. I appreciate it, and I look forward to our future meditations, quite a few of which are already done, and one of the reasons I thought I should update Meditation 1. Take me to the mountains. Peace and good health always.